You're listening to the BigIron Buzz. Hello everyone, welcome to our latest episode of the BigIron Buzz, where each week we'll bring you the latest news and trends in the ag, real estate, and used equipment markets. This podcast is brought to you by BigIron Auctions and Realty, rural America's premier online unreserved auction site, bringing you rural connections, respected values, and real deals. I'm Drew Dolezal. I'm the host of today's show, and our guests today are Mark Stock and Kurt Campbell from BigIron Auctions. Welcome, gentlemen. So, first we'll start with Kurt here. Kurt, you're new to the show, so I'd just like to take a little minute here to introduce you to our audience. Tell us about yourself.
Well, good morning, Drew. I'm the region manager for BigIron Auctions here in the Mountain Region, but, I originated as a Nebraska farm boy. So I made my way to Wyoming in the early 90s and attended auction school in early 2000s. And then began in the on-site auction and traditional real estate business there, and joined the BigIron team shortly after I discovered that in 2009, 2010. And I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of great customers in the panhandle of Nebraska, Wyoming, Montana, Kansas, and Colorado. Currently live in the northern Colorado area, and sure enjoy what we get to do here and help our customers with BigIron.
Good. And maybe Mark can chime in here a little bit. What was it like what drew you to BigIron? What was it like when you first started? And maybe talk a little bit about the early days when you were with them.
Exciting here. And some people I've been able to tell my story, but how I discovered BigIron it was as competition. And being in the traditional on-site auction business, I saw BigIron as competition and began to discover how online auctions worked and spent some time in the early days trying to prove an online auction method that it couldn't work. And fortunately enough, I discovered how great of a team BigIron is and was able to join the company. And as auctions developed and the online method continues to prove itself, it was certainly a great move 10 short years ago. As I discovered the BigIron Auction Group.
Well, Kurt, we met, you were in charge of one of our original on-site sales for Gary Lathrop back in Casper, Wyoming. That was a few years back. Was that in 2009?
Sir, that was, I believe, if I remember the date correct, it was December 5th of 2010.
I just remember it being really windy because the wind never blows in Wyoming. And
it was the only day.
Yeah, it was the only day that the wind blew there in Wyoming. And I remember driving down the road, the highway there, and I saw these really tall snow fences. And when we were going down whatever highway that is between Cheyenne and Casper, I think. And I said, boy, they must get a lot of snow over here. He goes, no, sir, that doesn't have anything to do with snow. Those are wind fences.
That stops the wind.
That stops the wind.
If you don't mind, if I add into there, Gary Lathrop was in the John Deere dealership business, and Gary actually the first auction that I got to help with after auction college was Gary Lathrop's auction that he hosted as a consignment auction in Casper, Wyoming, and so it was fortunate enough for me to be involved with stock auction and Gary Lathrop for his closeout auction in December of 2010.
Now, why don't you tell us a little bit of Kurt? You started out as an independent sales rep, and that was kind of a feast or famine period in your life, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I earlier mentioned there, Mark, that when I discovered BigIron, it was as competition, and I discovered the method on how it works. So I did. I left the company that I was with, selling real estate and auctions, and a great company, but I seen the value of an online auction. So I joined as an independent sales rep, and as an independent sales rep, our guys are responsible for creating and developing business as well as taking care of the current business that BigIron has, and it was go generate relationships and serve my customers. And so the introduction of an online auction method in 2010 was some folks looked at me like I had three heads, and because it was unusual. And so we've been able to develop those relationships with customers and show them how an online auction works. So it's been very exciting because I spent the first year of my career with BigIron as an independent sales rep and serving the state of Wyoming and the panhandle of Nebraska, but certainly it was a lot of work to be able to meet all the customers, as many as I could, and show them the benefits of how an online auction was going to work in their operation.
So what I like about that experience, Kurt, is, you have walked the walk, and we've got a lot of new independent sales reps that listen to these podcasts. So what words of encouragement or words of advice do you give somebody that just signed on here as an independent sales rep here with BigIron?
Gosh, I have a lot of words, but I guess a couple of them that, to be brief with it, is you need to stay consistent. You need to remain positive, and you need to promote everything, every seller, every item that you list. You need to promote yourself, and you got to stay consistent. You got to stay strong. You cannot give up. I've seen so many guys in the past that they gave up one call early. If they'd have made one more sales call, they would have earned that business, or one more month they would have got that sale they was waiting to get. So you can never give up. You cannot give up. You've got to just stay strong, and your customers are expecting you to stay strong and stay consistent, because they want to work with the guy that is consistent and works hard and is going to stay in the business.
So I'm hearing you say is you got to go back. Don't just stop and see somebody one time, and when they say no, not today, what does that mean to Kurt Campbell?
When a customer says no, not today, what they means is I don't have enough information yet. And so what that means is you need to go, if they say no, not today, or they say no, that just means they don't have enough information. You need to get them more information. They need to learn more about you as a sales rep. They need to learn more about BigIron. And maybe as a sales rep, you don't know enough about them yet. So you should be discovering more information about the customer that you're talking with, and see how we can help. We can't help somebody if we don't know what they need.
Yeah, I agree with that. So then after a period of time being an ISR, Kurt, then we saw the gleam in your eye, and we said, I tell you what, I think this guy's got the potential makings of a district manager. So how many years were you a district manager, and what advice do you give to a new district manager that's been brought on here within the BigIron organization?
Oh gosh, as far as my tenure as a district manager, I believe that was 6 years, perhaps 7. Kind of losing track of time. I know we celebrated a 10-year anniversary here with BigIron just a couple of short weeks ago. But the thing with being a district manager, I think there's a lot of things to learn. I really have enjoyed learning people and learning how to work with our customers. But as a district manager, learning some of the basics, the processes and procedures of how we do business. And I think that's very important. And we are responsible for helping all the customers in our area. So I really feel that following through with that and getting independent sales reps to join our team and helping them help our customers, because there's only so many customers that a district manager can help in a week. And when he gets more independent sales reps to help him help all those customers, we can help so many more people liquidate assets or find an equipment or whatever they're looking for. So in summary, I think the part of district manager that was so exciting is just the fact that you get to get out on the field and see all the producers. You get to see everybody.
And what is that district manager, as speaking from you as being an ISR, what value does that district manager add to that ISR that's working in those local areas of responsibility?
Oh, the district manager is the coach. He's your go-to guy. He's the guy that has all the tools, and he is seeing helped other customers to help you provide solutions to your customers. So there's so many different things that the district manager is aware of, and he's your coach. And if you are the ISR, your district manager is your coach, and he's the guy that's going to help you get through some of them tough decisions. And of course, as an ISR, you got teammates, and to be able to work with your teammates and learn from each other. There's a lot of great opportunity there as well. But the district manager is by far the coach. Unfortunately, sometimes the coach needs to pull you out and sit you on the bench for a while. But that's so that we can provide the great service to our customers.
And out in the mountain region where you are at now as a region manager, so here we go, 6 years as a district manager. Once again, we've seen some kind of gleam in Kurt Campbell's eye. And we said, I think this guy's got the making to take the next move higher. As you're now into your 10-year, as in 10th or 11th year with BigIron, what is your value proposition that has been the most successful for you to use when you find that new ISR and you're coaching that new district manager and you're coaching and meeting with a new potential customer?
Oh, out of all of our value propositions, I think that it depends on what area you are in and which one has the most value. Certainly, when I look at it, the unreserved auction method is the greatest tool that we have, because that brings more buyers to our auction, that brings better market value to the equipment that we are selling. And of course, when you add in the honesty and integrity, the transparency, the lien free, when you add in the no buyer's fees, with the dedicated marketing packages, when you add all those in, there's so many different ways that the value proposition can be unfolded and help our ISRs show the local customers the true value of BigIron and how we can get the best return on their equipment.
So I'll put you on the spot right now, Kurt Campbell. Let's go back in your memory bank and give me a story of one of the most unique and exciting experiences you had working for one of your mountain region sellers.
Oh man, that is kind of putting me on the spot. We've had a lot of different customers sell a lot of different types of items. That is kind of putting me on the spot with it. Some of the most unique items. Some of the most unique items we've sold. We sold a lake harvester for a customer in Western Colorado one time. That was a unique item in itself. Trying to think of the whole situation. There was early in my days, I know there was a customer that I worked for that lived in southern Wyoming, and that was one of those that we had a lot of items that actually I traveled there and the night before and stayed there and got a half a night's sleep in my pickup to be able to get started the next day. That was an exciting one. Gosh, there's so many people that I've been able to work with and help. Let me tell you this. This is a great story. One early on, I had a customer that gosh, they'd buy and sell equipment. They have a big ranch. Anyway, I was able to get them to sell equipment on BigIron. They trusted me and trusted the BigIron auction method, and so I warned them that they may receive some phone calls. And so I would check in with them every week, make sure that they're doing okay, and make sure that and let them know what we were doing for our work to help promote and sell their equipment. And so the Monday before the Wednesday auction, I called him and I said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Is everything going okay?" And my seller's replies, he says, "I don't think I'll ever sell on BigIron again." And I said, "Oh no, why not?" And he starts chuckling and he says, "I've had more phone calls from more people all over the United States." He goes, "I've got nothing else done." And then he starts laughing even further. He says, "I have had more fun talking with people from all over the United States talking about this equipment." He said, "I've really enjoyed talking with everybody." He says, "I got to let you know," he said, there was a gentleman from Kansas that was calling on my 7520 tractor. He goes, "I got a couple of older, the old 4-wheel drive articulating 7520 tractors. I had a pair of them." He said the customer would call me and he goes, "I told him that it's going to burn a quart of oil a day if you're using it all day." And he says, as we got farther into that conversation, the seller said that the buyer was trying to convince me that tractor was not going to use a quart of oil. And so the seller says, after the fourth time that I told the buyer that this tractor is going to burn a quart of oil a day, the buyer finally agreed and says, "Okay, so what you're saying is this tractor will burn a quart of oil a day if you're using it all day." And the seller said, "Yes." And he goes, the seller says, "I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. If you buy this tractor and take it to Kansas and it does not burn a quart of oil a day when you use it all day," he goes, "you just bring it back and I'll give you your money back." And so the buyer said, "So what you're saying is, okay, I believe you now." And the seller laughed and he said, "I want to make sure you know exactly the ins and outs of my tractors and it'll burn a quart of oil a day." And so that was probably one of the greatest stories early on, because it shows the transparency of our auction and it shows what we expect from our sellers to tell the truth about the equipment, and the buyers really expect that. Sometimes, this buyer was trying to make the equipment better than it was, and both of them sold for good money, and the seller was very happy. So that was kind of a long-winded story, but boy, it sure was worth sharing.
Now I've got the flip side, because as we have a lot of people listening to this that are independent sales reps with BigIron. It's tough to walk away from a deal, isn't it, Kurt?
Oh gosh, yes.
And how many times have you had to do that? And why did you do it?
Sir, I have several times, and one time in particular I can remember. I was on site with my auction agreement book, and we were going through the auction terms and conditions, and we got to the unreserved, or the shield bidding part of our contract, which talks about everything sells with no reserve. You cannot bid on it. You cannot have someone bid on it for you. You can't have a friend or neighbor. And after reading that paragraph, and I looked up at him and I said, "Do you understand that this is an unreserved auction? You cannot bid or have someone bid for you." And he goes, "Yeah, but that doesn't matter. How will you ever know?" And I looked at him and I closed my auction agreement book and I said, "Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, but I will not work for you." And it took him by surprise, because he thought that maybe I would just be okay with it. But it was a $75,000 package 8 years ago. And I told him I would not work for him if he could not respect the terms of our unreserved auction terms. And I still believe that today. It doesn't matter how big the deal is. If our buyer, if our sellers don't agree with the terms and conditions of our auction, then we don't need to work for them, because our buyers expect us to keep the terms and conditions of our auction to be unreserved. And that's why our buyers have so much confidence to bid.
And I thank you for those comments, because that's true to our platform. That's the basis of why this works from all across the country. And have you ever had a bargain on a sale, Kurt?
Oh, I tell you what, the bigger our auctions get, it's harder to find that one bargain. But I'm telling you what, I think there's a bargain on every sale, no matter where the sale is. But I will let you know that there are fewer and fewer bargains. There's one on there somewhere. But when you have the type of bidders that we have that are confident from all across the world, and mainly the United States, guys know that if they're going to get a value, I mean, if there's something that is cheap of good value, they bid. They know they're going to get to write a check. So oftentimes there's no steals on BigIron. There's people watching, just waiting for them. Sometimes there's maybe one that's a little bit of a better value, but I tell you what, typically I haven't seen any steals for a long time.
So give us a little pulse now on what's going on in the farm economy throughout your region.
Our region goes from western Kansas to the wheat guys and the feedlot and the dairies into Colorado and clear up into Montana. So there's a lot of different types of climates and of different types of size of farms and everything along the lines. In the Front Range of Colorado in certain areas, there's been a lot of good rain. Things are looking good. Corn is out of the ground. You look into eastern Colorado, they're getting the corn in. They could use a shot of rain. The wheat's a little tough. You look into Wyoming. Wyoming looks as good as it's been in a while, because it's green. Get up into Montana, guys are drilling their spring wheat, getting going. I think the producers are still producing. Our producers are still moving on. They're trying to continue to feed America and continue with their operations. I do think that there are some concerns with the prices of commodities, and certainly that's weighing heavy on a lot of our producers' minds. And I feel that they are going to continue working through it, because this is their livelihood. This is what they do, and there'll be some discussions, I'm sure, as we get into this fall. But we hope that we can help everybody get through the tough times here that maybe they are having. But as far as a general consensus, everyone is continuing to plant. They're continuing to work the fields. They're continuing to move forward, because that's what they do.
Have they released. You live in Johnstown, Colorado. First, tell us where that's at, and then how has COVID-19 affected that area where you live? And I think you're a dad, and I think you just had a birthday, so happy birthday. But how has that affected the graduations, the events in Colorado or Wyoming that is kind of unique or different than normal?
Sure. So first of all, I live in a town called Johnstown, which is in the Front Range of Colorado, near Greeley and Loveland, and a good farm ground there that is building lots of houses and lots of folks. And so the COVID-19 has changed some things in the state of Colorado. It was at a stay-home order beginning, I think, in March, and of course, everyone had began to be more protective. As far as the essential businesses were able to continue to operate, and the stores to get the necessities. Restaurants were delivery only. The schools have been on online type classes, and they are not going back to class this year, neither in Colorado nor in Wyoming. Both states have chosen to continue finishing out the year on their online classes, which should conclude here probably in 5 to 10 days. But it has affected mainly for that. What I really noticed with kids is some are used to doing online studying and used to doing things from their home, while others do most of their studying in school. And so it's teaching a lot of kids to do different things. It's teaching them how to do studying different. As far as the people in the communities, it's kind of a mixed bag. We get out in the field and see customers, and we're continuing on with business and with minimal fear. There's other people that certainly that are feared more, so how we're able to serve them and be out there is we're practicing safety and being as safe with the customers as they ask us to, and certainly we do our best, but we also know at the same time that our customers need equipment, and our customers need us still to help them in their essential business.
And I'll just follow up on that too, just from the main office perspective. Our registrations on our website have just gone through the roof because I'm sure in Colorado and Wyoming, as in a lot of these states, the bans for any large public gatherings were all put into place. And if anybody was having an open outcry auction, that had all been postponed. Now we are seeing in a lot of the states that are releasing or opening up some of those restrictions, and we are starting to see a few of those open outcry sales that were postponed, now trying to get rescheduled. But we've also noticed that a lot of these folks that had postponed sales, they started using BigIron to get their merchandise sold because they still wanted to get their equipment moved. Have you seen a lot of that in Colorado as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen some of that move to from a live on site to online, and the methods have been changing quite dramatically to some other folks trying to incorporate an online method where maybe they haven't done it before. But we're seeing more influx of that equipment coming our direction because we have the experience and we're set up and we have the team to put it together. One thing I do want to say on that, Mark, that's hitting the top of my mind when you talk about an on-site auction. Oftentimes guys like an on-site auction because they want folks to come to their place, or they want to have an event or a celebration. And you know what? And that's fine. I mean, I think that if you have an estate or a retirement or even a liquidation, any type of auction, you want to have a celebration. I think you deserve to have that. But I want to let you know that BigIron, the sales team and all the independent reps and the district managers and the region managers and everyone, we're happy to accommodate you of that. And quite often what we do is we host what we call as an equipment inspection days, or you also may refer to as an open house, but equipment inspection days. We also encourage bidder registration at those, that we could come and help you register to bid. We also have bidder assistance on the auction day. So what I'm saying is, oftentimes we could be on site as well. We can have a barbecue as well. We can have a lot of those great things that people maybe miss because of a traditional on-site auction. But guess what? When we have the amount of bidders that we have on Big Iron auctions, even when we're having a party on site, we're bringing the world to your auction. And I don't know how you can compete with that. That's the best of both worlds right there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of your district managers. You just want to do a shout out to some of your district managers here real quick, and then we'll mention a few pieces of equipment that we can highlight here that are selling the next go around here on Big Iron.
Yeah, very good. And and a couple of things here that are coming up early. Doug Bender with his team in District 8 has got a lot of nice equipment coming up here in May. Several different packages, just to mention a few of them. Nickel D in Cheyenne Wells, Colorado, a large producing farm down there, and in the ag business, has got a pair of 2014 John Deere 4045R sprayers. Those are looking, I believe those are close to 2,000 hours on them with 1,200 gallon tanks. And we are getting the documentation. I was told that they are one owner machines, but I want to provide the documentation before I continue on talking about that. But those are good machines. Take a look at them. They also have a J&M 1326 grain cart. In addition, in Cheyenne Wells, Colorado, is the Cheyenne County Road and Bridge. That is the Road and Bridge Department there in southeast Colorado. They're going to have a backhoe loader, vibratory roller packer, as well as a Trail King equipment trailer. And then they also have this 95 Kenworth T800 day cab truck with a wet kit. So take a look at that. Ted Shetman, he's our district manager in Western Kansas, and he and his team have put together a retirement auction for Leonard Kleeman. He's at Lake in Kansas, and take a look at this. This gentleman has a 1991 Case IH 7140 two-wheel drive tractor. The meter's showing a little over 3,000 hours on this unit. It's showing the Kansas sun on it, but the paint looks pretty good. It's a pretty clean tractor. It's in its working clothes there on the auction site. So take a look at that. But it also has some trucks and some other items like this 81 Chevy grain truck, tandem axle grain truck there. That's a sweetheart of a 81 kind of truck there. So, another item that actually shares both in our neck of the woods and your neck of the woods as well, Mark, is Scott Ravenkamp has a Wisco Challenger 2005 Wisco Challenger detached tandem axle equipment trailer. So that's on the auction. But in addition, he has several items in eastern Nebraska there at Verdigris, a couple enclosed trailers and a vehicle and a tractor and such. But another thing coming up, there's a lot of nice equipment that's going to be coming up here in June too. Scott Keith and Kevin Bellamy are all listing equipment for nice packages coming up here at the end of May and into June, Mark.
Well, I know, Kurt, you have a good team put together. You do a nice job educating and getting people the information they need to make a good decision when they're bidding. And I know you've got finance companies that you work with. I know you work with several trucking companies. You're also trying to get into some business with some of these oil field stores. And I know that everybody's heard about the crude oil situation. Are you seeing anything affecting that business right now? And are we going to see some packages of equipment coming out of that industry, or is it not as complicated as it sounds? A couple of things on that. We have been finding and helping some customers with some smaller construction packages and some pieces and trucks along the lines. The crude oil is certainly a tough thing. We've been through some booms and some busts, and this one in particular has been different in a sense that it's like the guys, what they haven't seen. They haven't seen this type of bust before. So there are some companies from my investigation and visiting with my networks, there are some guys that are certainly going to need to liquidate. There's also some guys that are just holding on, trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of the other companies, and I have some folks, whether they be in Wyoming or Colorado, in the DJ Basin, those guys are working. They're able to
move to maybe some civil and some aggregate type work versus building pads. So the service guys there that are building the oil field and in that industry, they're certainly seeing some struggle. I do anticipate that we'll be able to help them, and I hope that if those guys are listening to this podcast, that they take the chance and realize that the Big Iron has great buyers, and we're very diverse. We're the type of equipment that we could sell, and I certainly think that we have a lot of great teammates that can make that happen for them. Whether it be in North Dakota, Montana, Colorado, down into Texas, it doesn't matter. This whole line here, we could certainly get to them guys. But I think there's going to be some opportunity there, and we dang sure have buyers for what those guys are looking to liquidate.
Well, that sounds real good. I know I'll just finish off here, too, with some of the items selling on May the 20th that always catch my attention. And right now we've got a 2011 Apache self-propelled sprayer that's selling in Beloit, Kansas for Wells Fargo Equipment Finance. That machine's showing about 1,900 hours. We also have a machine in Bethany, Missouri, also from Wells Fargo Equipment Finance. They've got a Hagee STS 12 self-propelled sprayer. That's got about 1,700 hours. That's coming right into season, folks, because a lot of this corn and beans, and it's popping through the ground, and you got to get that post application put on there here real quick. We also have some nice combines that'll be selling. We also have some really nice tractors and loaders, and we've got such a wide variety of semi-trucks. Whether you want a day cab or whether you want a Peterbilt 379 triaxle that's selling in Garden Plain, Kansas for Lucas Jennings. We've got a great selection of those too. And don't forget about the haying equipment, whether you got a pull type windrower or self-propelled windrower. Folks, we've got a lot of those as well. And, Kurt, I want to thank you very much for sticking with the company and being the leader that you are. I know I enjoy visiting with you all the time because you're, hey, this is Kurt Campbell. Happy Monday morning to you from the Mountain Region. That's his sign on every Monday morning when we have our conference calls. So that consistency always pays off, and your positive influence in our organization, and he's introduced a lot of us to the Optimist Creed, so that's always good stuff too.
Thanks, Park. I appreciate that. If you don't mind, I want to add one more thing. When you were talking about hay equipment, so the hay equipment market now on this equipment is very strong. So I guess a couple of things that I would encourage, the guys that are listening, if you're looking for hay equipment, get on the Big Iron auction site and check it out. If you, for some reason, didn't trade any hay equipment when you updated, now is the best time to cash in. If you have hay equipment that you're not using, contact us, and we will be happy to turn that into cash because the market's really strong on that equipment right now.
It sure is. All right. Well, thank you, Kurt.
Thanks, Kurt.
Well, it's been a pleasure being on the Big Iron team, and by golly, I appreciate every person I've gotten to meet, whether they be a buyer or seller, and everybody, every teammate that we have. So it's a lot of fun on the Big Iron team for sure.
And there's no kidding around here. Kurt is very successful at what he does, but you got to give a shout out to the better half, Kurt, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I got that wife, Barbara. She does a great job, and she keeps the home fires burning when I'm gone, and she makes sure that things are taken care of. But the other thing that she does really good is she listens to me, and she really supports me. So I'm happy to have such a great wife.
Well, that's great, Kurt. Thank you again for joining our show. I'm just going to sign us off here, and then we'll let you go. So that's our show for today, folks. I'd like to thank our guests, Mark Stock and Kurt Campbell, and remind everyone that the equipment that was mentioned today can be found on the May 20th auction on BigIron.com. For the Big Iron Buzz, I'm Drew Dolezal. We'll catch you here next week.